establishment warned you about.
That's right. It's the Dr. Tommy Show. Glad you're here. Welcome to your Ultra MAGA podcast, broadcasting from the free state of Florida, where we are joining you live in Tampa, Florida, from the Echelon Health Studios. We're here with Tracy.
Good morning. Or no, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We just made it into the afternoon, and we're happy you're here. If you're not subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe on Rumble or wherever you want to listen to on the podcast. We're live on Rumble, but we're also delayed on Rumble, and we're also available on any of the podcasting platforms that you'd like to have. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening to an independent podcast put on by concierge medicine specialist here in Tampa. This year is our busiest year ever.
Yes, it is. And
we having what? We had more people, I think, join this year than we've had ever in the history of the practice. Mm-hmm. And
yes,
I think it's because of a lot of it's driven by COVID.
A lot of it is driven by COVID.
People are listening, or people are fed up with the bureaucracy of medicine.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, people don't want to continue wearing the mask into the doctor's office, number one. Number two, doctors don't want to treat you if you're unvaccinated. Mm-hmm. Number three, when you call a doctor's office, you can't even speak to them. Yeah.
But here we don't have any of those problems. So if you're in the area and you want to come in and talk to us, we'll be glad to talk to you and set up a complimentary consultation. Ultra MAGA, but that doesn't mean we only take Republicans, right? There's this misconception.
Take everyone.
There's a misconception, I think, if you're have an Ultra MAGA podcast, that you're some type of exclusionary person. But the actuality is that our practice is free and open, and that's our motto: is patient freedom. And it's whether or not you believe the way we do is not important. What's important is you believe in freedom for yourself, first of all, and freedom from healthcare bureaucracy, and freedom from prying eyes of insurance companies that want to tell you that you can or can't have this type of treatment. So that can cross any boundary. I think it doesn't have to be just a certain political bent or any political bent. I think most of the people that join are not even political.
Yeah, I mean, we have Democrats. I know we have some that, are more Democrats. We have some that are Republicans. Yeah. We have some independents, and we have some libertarians.
And we make them wear a special button. No, we don't do that.
To wear a tag when they walk in. No. And we have Christians and Jewish people. And we have atheists and Catholics and, just all types of religions and backgrounds.
And see, we're a diverse practice because as far as I know, I'm the only non-white concierge doctor in the area, aren't I?
Well,
actually, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, concierge doctor
in the Lutz
DPC.
area. Are you talking about Lutz?
I'm talking about Greater Tampa Bay.
Okay, well, one of our patients was seeing a doctor in Clearwater who was a female.
She was DPC.
Oh, okay.
So anyway,
then probably.
We are diverse. We're the most diverse Ultra MAGA concierge practice in the Central Florida. I'll put it that way.
I mean, there's really not that many concierge doctors, so
no, and there's not many. There's not many concierge doctors. Yeah,
you can get a DPC doctor really everywhere. I mean,
now you can.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Now you can. A lot of people don't even know the difference between DPC and concierge medicine. The difference is mostly in volume. It's kind of the same bent as far as eschewing bureaucracy, but the model, the difference is based on volume, I think.
That's part of the difference, yes. Also, they might charge, I've been on different DPC websites, so sometimes they charge for texting after hours.
Right.
And you don't always get to speak directly with the physician. You leave a message with, the nurse. Mm-hmm. And then you might be charged for miscellaneous, procedures.
Right.
Mole remover.
Right. They may do like a base fee and then like a la carte type stuff.
Right. And then most of the time with DPC, you have a membership fee, a joining fee.
And a registration fee. Mm-hmm. I think the main thing is that direct primary care do not take insurance.
They do not take insurance.
That's the main thing. And concierge medicine, we do not take insurance.
Right.
Radley Griffin does not take insurance.
No.
whoever else. But there are some out there that do take insurance. And so MDVIP, for instance, you take insurance, you get your copay, you pay your copay, and then on top of that, you pay this other fee, and then that gives you the concierge treatment.
Right.
Our concierge treatment is just everybody gets concierge treatment.
Right.
You can have insurance. You don't have to have insurance. We don't use it. You can use it for your labs, your imaging fees, or your imaging, whatever.
Right.
And then there's some DPC practices out there that want to make a big difference about, well, concierge practices, they are charging you insurance. That's not true. We don't, and Radley doesn't. And so there's some out there that do and some other that don't. And I think DPC is fine for some people and concierge is fine for some people. I don't begrudge anybody for choosing DPC over concierge, or for that matter, for staying in the insurance world. It's just whatever floats your boat.
Right. Whatever works for you and your family.
Anyway, whatever floats the boat of the people who are landing here illegally in Florida. If they want to go live in Massachusetts, then Ron DeSantis has made that.
He'll send you away.
he'll help you out. This is the funniest thing I've heard in a long time. This is from WFLA. I heard this on the way into work. It says DeSantis claims he flew dozens of migrants to Massachusetts. Not only does he claim he did it. Because the people in Massachusetts will tell you he did it.
I read that. I think there was only really 50 people.
There was 2 plane loads.
Yeah, I've read that it's 50 people. It's really not that many if that's really the case.
No, but
there's going to be more than that, don't you think?
They're Venezuelan. It says here, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he sent 2 planes full of migrants to Martha's Vineyard as a program. It's part of a program, he calls it, to, quote, transport illegal immigrants to sanctuary destinations. The group of approximately 50 Venezuelan migrants, some of them children, were taken to Martha's Vineyard Regional High School where they were given snacks and shelter.
Well, they did pass something in Florida. So I think 12, I don't know if it's billion or million dollars was set aside to allow for this.
Yes. They use in transportation funds.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Says DeSantis' office is given Fox a statement that says states like Massachusetts, New York, and California will better facilitate the care of these individuals who they have invited into our country by incentivizing illegal immigration through their designation as, quote, sanctuary states, and support Biden's administration's open borders. That's amazing. That's really a master stroke.
I mean, think about these people. They're going to an island.
I know. They're going to Martha's Vineyard.
I know. They're going to an island full of rich people.
Full of rich people and full of people like Barack Obama, Kennedys.
I would think these people...
they're going to love it there.
I mean, if they're coming from Venezuela,
hell
sure.
Yeah. I mean, they would love it in El Paso. But imagine getting to El Paso and then they say, hey, do you guys want to go to New York City? You want to take in a show? Ship them off there? They stay in hotels in New York City. And now here they are coming in from Florida, and we're like, hey, have you ever seen Martha's Vineyard? Do you even know what it is? And they probably don't know. You say, have you heard of the Kennedys? I don't know. Well, have you heard of Barack Obama? Yeah, we heard of Barack. He lives there. You might even see him in your new home.
He might invite them over for dinner.
He should invite them over for dinner. I mean, that's the big thing to do.
Pool?
That is, swim in his pool, eat out of his refrigerator. Yeah. I mean, he's got 4 mansions at least.
Really, I mean, if you're in a sanctuary city, why not just open door policy for everyone?
And that's what they do say. They do say that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, it's only been a couple days. I know what's happened already.
They are pissed off.
Why would they be mad?
Because they don't. Oh, I don't know if I have it on me, but there was one that said. They said that DeSantis is using these people as political pawns. Oh,
I don't think so. I think he's just doing what they're asking for. They're saying, open the borders. And why would you have a sanctuary city if you don't want people to come to you and stay in your city? Because
they're full of crap. Because what they want is to appear to be big-hearted and full of compassion, and at the same time want these people to only go to the states where...
Yeah, like outside our house, maybe?
Right. Yeah, they want those people to go to Texas. They want those people to go to all these border states, Arizona, even California. They don't want them coming into New York. And they don't even want them in California in the places where these liberals live. They don't want, San Francisco, they have enough problems already. They don't need any migrants. They have enough problems with their third world type living situations already. I mean, you want to see real slums? Yeah. Google that one time. Yeah, Google terrible. Living on the street in San Francisco.
It's terrible. I watched a video recently, and the people in the streets literally look like zombies.
And they're all strung out, addicted to drugs, defecating in the streets, needles everywhere.
It's terrible.
And this is the thing, is back to this point about, this isn't funny, and this isn't jest. talking about as part of a program. But the Democrats really do have a program of incentivizing illegal aliens to come here. Illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, illegal migrants, whatever. People who are not legally coming in here the way you're supposed to, the way that we know people who have paid money, good money to do, and are still paying good money.
Still paying money.
Still showing up to the immigration services and talking to those people and, still doing everything the right way. This is a different way. This is a way you can just show up and then be accepted into this society. And then before you know it, after you've got all of your benefits, pretty soon they're going to try to make them voters. So that's the whole big thing.
Our patient that just left, his brother and son, I mean, they've been going through immigration process for, I would guess, 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
And thousands of dollars.
Yes.
He has a lawyer on retainer, doesn't he?
Yes, he has a lawyer on retainer. And so some of the families going to Egypt to visit family, and he can't go. So he's not allowed to go right now.
Because?
His visa won't allow him. So,
well, if he goes to Egypt and then comes back in through the southern border, he'll be fine.
Yeah, he would be fine. They might take him to New York or wherever. He
might end up at Martha's Vineyard.
Could go on a little mini vacation.
Yeah.
But they're doing it the legal way, and it's been an ongoing process for 5 years.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the thing is too, the way have these programs, these illegal alien welcome to America programs. Have you seen these stories about these coyotes dropping these children off? Every now and then the Texas Border Patrol will find children wandering in the desert. This is terrible.
It is, yeah.
How many kids have died? They send these girls on these trips. They send them with Plan B for when they get raped, because they know what's going to happen. You heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
It's disgusting.
It's terrible.
And they drop these children off in the desert. How many have died? How many people have drowned in the El Paso,
I know. And
Rio
some
Grande?
People will say, well, they're getting away from, a terrible life. Okay, that might be true. But to send your daughter with a bunch of grown men, strangers with the potential of getting raped.
Yeah. Well,
but I'd rather be poor and live with my mom and dad, you know?
And I would rather my child be poor and live with me than be raped.
Right.
And they're saying, well, what they're doing, they're making cartels great again, because what they're doing is these cartels are booming. Business is booming because that's their business, is smuggling people. Mm-hmm. It's really insane if you stop to think about it. And the way they try to push themselves, and the reason why this is so wonderful is because this is a perfect example of, I don't even think you want to call it unintended consequences. I think you call it reality, is because what happens is when they have these programs, these incentivizing people to travel illegally, they really don't want those people here. They just want the voters here, but they don't want them in their yard. They don't want to take care of them. They don't give a crap about them. Mm-hmm. They don't care if a few of them die in the desert, so long as at the end of the day, they're going to get some more votes about 10 years down the road. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is these people come, and let's say that they're not, let's say these people that come, let's say 50% of them never get to vote, because by the time they pass the law, they just don't get to vote. Mm. Their children do, though.
Right.
And see, what they do is they inculcate them in this cycle, the poverty that we've all seen, you and I have seen, where you're on dependency on these programs generation after generation, and it's generational poverty. And that's what they're enslaving these people into, is just generational poverty. And then they think they're going to enslave them in the generational voting for Democrats. But what's happening is there's actually been a movement of Hispanics, which they take as this monolithic group, like they do everybody, blacks, Hispanics, gays, whatever you want to call it. They take transgenders. They all take them as a monolithic group and say, look, you belong to us now. Mm-hmm. We've bestowed upon you victim status, and now you are in part of our big tent, and we're going to fight for you, but now you have to vote Democrat. But anyway, the Hispanics, they say, are moving to the Republicans in big numbers. Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some more stuff here about Chicago mayor. She got some, and Mayor Lightfoot, and she sent them off to the suburbs.
What?
This is from Western Journal. Chicago mayor made big show of accepting Texas bus migrants and immediately ships them somewhere else. Yeah.
So she kept them in Chicago?
No, she sent them to a suburb. 64 of 175 illegal immigrants sent to Chicago were soon sent to a Hampton Inn in the suburb of Burr Ridge with no notice to officials. And it says, this is somebody who lives in the place where she was sent them. She goes, "We're happy for people to find freedom. However, it's hypocrisy for the mayor of Chicago to complain about the governor of Texas when she's doing the same thing and sending them here to the Republican suburbs."
Yeah. Well, we know that the Democrat governors, they're full of crap.
Yeah. Let's see what's that. These companies, this is something from Axios. It says companies are dropping vaccine mandates. It says some companies are rolling back mandates for employer COVID vaccines, but few are making official statements. Well, it matters. Employers are trying to reduce any barriers to entry for new hires, says Aaron Grau, co-founder of Charter, a media and services company, who's hearing from executives who are dropping their mandates. The requirements are expensive, time-consuming for employers, and another reason to stop, she says.
You know, they're United Healthcare. You know, what's the I'm trying to think who? Optum. They next week they will no longer be testing.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, I found that out today.
Well, I think it's coming, and I think they mistimed their vaccine booster. They should have come out with that booster before, because now that's the main impetus for people to get vaccinated, is to save their job. And now that they're not going to have this mandate, a lot of places are not going to have it. Their booster sales are going to go down. Now they have to rely on the government to make these boosters like part of a daily shot regimen or a yearly shot regimen.
Right. It's going to be part of the yearly shot regimen, I'm sure.
Yeah, and this is another thing about that. This is the Navy. This is from Fox News. Navy quietly rolled back punishments for SEALs seeking religious exemptions to the COVID vaccine. So they had this filing, and they said that the COVID vaccine. They said that if you didn't get the COVID vaccine, that you were deemed medically disqualified from being deployed. But then they filed this amendment to the lawsuit, and it says, because these SEALs sued the Navy to say, look, we deserve to have a religious exemption. And it says that those, on behalf of 35 active duty SEALs and 3 reservists seeking a religious exemption. But then they filed something that says a communication order was circulated by the Navy on May 23rd with the subject NSWC closeout to Trident Order number 12. The order rescinds reference A. Reference A is about basically saying that they're medically unfit. So they're kind of slowly walking this back.
I think also companies they're seeing other companies get sued.
Yeah.
So nurses, hospital staff, they're like 20, 30 people are suing the hospital, and they're winning.
Yeah. And
the hospital is going to be paying out millions of dollars. So I think companies are thinking, well, we better backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can take a cruise now too, unvaccinated.
Yeah, out of U.S. Mm-hmm. I think if you still go to Canada, or I actually looked it up because I was looking for us for a cruise. Mm-hmm. And if you go to Canada or Bermuda, I believe it is, you still have to have a vaccine.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. You don't have to have a vaccine. You either have to have a vaccine or a proof. No, wait. You have to have a vaccine.
Okay.
And if you go to... If you cruise out of America, you don't have to have a vaccine, but you still have to show them that you have a negative COVID test.
Right, but if you're vaccinated, you do not have to show a test.
Which actually makes more sense, that you would have to show a negative COVID test in light of the fact that COVID vaccines don't prevent COVID. Mm. So it doesn't make any sense that you would just say, okay, if you have a vaccine, then all of a sudden, and that's what never made sense. They said if you have vaccine, that you're automatically assume not to have COVID. Right.
Well, a friend I was talking to this morning who was telling me about United Healthcare rolling back on testing every week. He's had it one time.
He's had what?
COVID.
Okay.
One time. And so several people in the office have had it multiple times, and they're he's the only one in his office not vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And everyone else has had it 2 and 3 times. The ones that are vaccinated.
Yeah.
But they test him every week.
Well, there's been...
Not the ones that are vaccinated.
Speaking of that, there was some data coming out of... I can't remember where it is, but Alex Berenson, who's a guy that kind of is on top of this vaccine breaking news stuff, he said that there's data coming out of, I forgot what country it is. You can go to his Substack. If you go to my podcast page, it's on one of the links. Anyway, Alex Berenson Substack. And it says that people who've had the vaccine are more likely to get COVID. And that's something that this data is showing. That's not his opinion. That's what the data is showing from these other countries. And so it'll be interesting to see if it ever comes out, what happens. You know, they'll probably drop it, would be my guess. Because they'll never get studied here. But there is this data that shows that people who are vaccinated potentially are more likely to get COVID, which we've kind of seen anecdotally.
Right. I would like to know more about hydroxychloroquine. I wish they would study that more and give patients the proper dosing.
Right. Instead of the dosing that's like 3 times a therapeutic amount.
Right.
Yeah, they did that with hydroxychloroquine, and I don't know if they ever did it with ivermectin where they gave them too much. I think they gave them too little, actually.
Ivermectin is now on the list of medications to treat COVID, I read.
On the CDC?
Yeah.
That's medications that are being investigated to treat COVID.
Okay.
It's still not CDC approved.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. It is on the website under medications that are being investigated to to treat COVID or whatever. This is a kind of a scary situation. This is from redstate.com. It says FBI turns up on the doorstep of a Trump supporter who wasn't even at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Did you read about that?
Yeah, I read this when you printed it.
So she was apparently not at the U.S. Capitol, but these FBI agents just showed up at her door and said, "Hey, we heard you were there."
Yeah, an anonymous tip, supposedly, right?
Right. And then she had to go and show them that she wasn't. So here's the first thing. Is it illegal now to go to the Capitol on certain days? I mean, what's this kind of police state action that we're now becoming seems to be normal?
Right. The thing is, who cares if she was there?
Right.
Or she's not allowed to stand outside the Capitol?
Well, you know,
I mean, if you don't have her on video...
Yeah,
you know,
if you don't have her
something. Why would you just? I mean, how many other people have they done this to?
A lot.
Knock knock. Hi, were you at the Capitol on the 6th?
There's a KT McPherson, I think is her name. Anyway, there's a Trump official, assistant Trump. I think it's just in the Department of State. Anyway, she had this happen to her. They came to her and they said, "Look, we heard you were on the Capitol on this day," and she had to go and show them that she wasn't, and she was able to show them. But yeah, what is the law that's broken?
What if you're just sitting at home though too? Just I just stayed home all day. There's no witnesses.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
What if you didn't have it in your calendar?
Well, I know I just read that Dr. Simone Gold just got out of prison.
Yes.
And she had to spend 8 days in quarantine all alone because she refused to take the vaccine when she was put in prison.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, they put her in the prison because she pled guilty to, what did she plead guilty to? Basically walking in the Capitol, which they called something else.
Well,
obstructing a proceeding.
Right. I did see her on video. She's walking in the Capitol. She didn't realize, she didn't know what was going on, but she was walking in the Capitol. I don't know.
It says, one New Jersey woman, Lisa Gallagher, has come forward saying the FBI showed up on her doorstep the morning after the Joe Biden delivered his anti-MAGA speech. Gallagher is not a, quote, Trump ally. She's just a regular person who supports Trump. She appeared on Tucker Carlson to share her story. FBI showed up at her doorstep. She said she did nothing wrong. She watched Biden's speech the night before, so she thought it was political. She explained to FBI agents that the FBI agents explained to her they'd received an anonymous tip that she was at the Capitol on January 6th. She invited them into her home and showed them her calendars to show her that she hadn't been at the Capitol that day. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But what they're doing now is they've tried to make it to where political disagreement with the establishment is grounds for basically saying that you are insurrectionist.
Well, Biden just basically said so.
Yeah.
On his speech.
Yes, he did. He called MAGA Republicans. That's why I say we're a MAGA podcast. MAGA Republicans are insurrectionists. They don't believe in the... And this is really scapegoating is what they're doing. They're scapegoating people of a different political persuasion than themselves. But they did that too. They're doing this, but then they're also doing those other things that are making it really scary is... where is it? I'm going to stack here. They're trying to now track your gun purchases with your credit card statements.
Right. Certain credit cards.
Right.
American
Here it goes.
Express.
Yeah, PJ Media. Credit card companies now will categorize gun store sales separately. Credit card giants Visa, MasterCard, and American Express will start categorizing sales of guns from gun shops using a new merchant code from the International Organization of Standardization. Previously, individual sales from gun stores were categorized as general merchandise.
So can you buy a gun with cash?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's,
That's what people are going to do.
Yeah, just pay with cash.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stupid that you have to do that, but just pay with cash.
And then the idea is, what would they do with this information if they do have all these codes that say you bought guns? Well,
Right. Are they going to have this list and review it every so often and say, oh, this person bought 5 guns. Maybe he's going to go shoot up a school.
And then cross-reference it with, did they also post something on Facebook? See, that's the thing with this tech that we have now, this tracking that you can do with Facebook and all this other stuff. They can track everything that you do, anything you do electronically. Check in on your phone somewhere, you can get tracked. If you have the damn app on your phone even and you're just traveling, it can track you.
Well, yeah.
You don't even have to check in.
Right. And it's always asking you, can we track you?
Right.
And then now my phone gives me 3 options.
No, only when I'm using the app or all the time. Go ahead and track me.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, what if they use this information and they can, I mean, like I said, they can do so much with tech now that's it's almost hard to comprehend how complex they can get things. But I could see in the future where they track your purchases of things like this, and then they may have separate items that say, oh well, this person also purchased Jordan Peterson tickets, so that's another thing. They're going to code that a certain way. So they get all these things stuck together, and they said now we're going to see, oh, did they attend a political rally? Oh, well, maybe they didn't do a crime, but maybe we should just go send the FBI to go check on them anyway.
Right.
And they'll be like this lady, Lisa Gallagher. She'll just have to say, we know you bought guns. We need you to show us the guns now.
Right, like they did that one guy. They showed up at his home.
With the ATF.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ATF showed up at his home. They said, we noticed you purchased some guns, and we need to see the guns. And the guy's like, okay. So he went in his house and he had a doorbell that recorded people. And the 2 ATF agents were sitting there with their flak jackets on and their guns drawn, or not guns drawn, but their guns ready. And they said, one of the ATF agents said to the other one, says, he doesn't believe we're cops. And the other guy said, yeah, I don't blame him. But that's the kind of things they're doing.
I mean, yes. How can you do that? I don't know. It seems.
How
can you just show up at someone's house and I have to show you my personal property?
Well, how can you go to someone's house and search their wife's underwear drawer for documents that the National Archives want? That's what they did to the president.
Right.
How can they do any of this stuff? I guess the point is they can do it until they're made not to do it, because they're not going to stop it on their own. No laws are going to restrict them. They're not. It's like criminals. Criminals don't behave legally. So if you put up a sign that says no guns and a criminal wants to go and shoot people, he's just going to go shoot them. And the same idea is if you have these people who are tyrannical in nature and want to go over and above their call of duty, whether they be law enforcement or politicians or whatever, they're just going to do it until they're told they can. And the only reason they get told they can't usually is by courts. That's why that's really our only fallback is courts at this stage.
Right.
So that's kind of scary. But I think the FBI and all of this whole reason is not to necessarily arrest people.
It's to scare them?
Scare them, you're right.
Yeah.
It's to quiet them. Even I think about it sometimes. I'm thinking about, what if I'm doing this stuff on this podcast and, somebody flags it and then, they just show up.
They look at our house like, oh my God, they have a Trump flag hanging in their yard.
And
they're both registered Republicans.
And they don't have to arrest you, but they could say, hey, slide it over to their friend and say, you might want to look into these people's license through their business. Make sure all their licenses are up to date.
Right.
And the Department of Revenue, maybe they should take a look at them too, just to make sure. This is kind of harassment. So what it does is it takes a person who's not otherwise inclined to speak out and just be quiet. And they don't share anything on Facebook because they don't want to draw the wrath of the FBI, for instance. And so I think that's the reason. I think that's what they're doing, is they're trying to basically make people a little scared. Because I was listening to the radio the other day, And who was it? Oh, it was Marsha Blackburn, Senator Blackburn from Tennessee. And she said a scared population is easier to control.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Charlie Crist is going off the deep end, called Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Ron DeSatan.
Yeah, he's lost his mind.
This from the Daily Wire. Florida Democrat gubernatorial candidate Charlie Crist, gubernatorial candidate here in Florida, Democrat, compared himself to Jesus in a bizarre stump speech that was uncovered this week. During the speech, he said he was fighting against, quote, DeSatan, a reference to the state's popular Republican governor Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, he's gone mad. I mean, the speech he gave a couple weeks ago about President Biden, I mean, none of it was true.
What did he say?
Biden's doing this wonderful job.
Yeah. I think he's pining for
he's the best president ever.
Yeah, the things he says are borderline manic.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the way he says it is odd.
Even if you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, inflation is affecting everyone. And there's no way that he can sit there and say that the president's doing a wonderful job.
Well, that's what the White House is saying. I don't see how anybody could say that, but...
No, how could you possibly say that? Everyone has to buy food. Everyone has to buy food, and everyone has to see the difference. Even if you're on food stamps, your food stamps they're not going as far.
Well, that's why we have to give more money to Ukraine so we can beat Russia. Don't you know? Yeah,
that's what he says. I know. We just have to keep giving them all of our money.
Yeah, and listen to this. This kind of ties in. It says, this is DeSantis. This is Chris, what he said. This is quote, this is a video of him. He goes, look at that sign right there. You see those colors, the blue and the yellow, Chris says? Does that remind you of the country that's in the news? Ukraine, someone shouted in the audience. Yeah, we're fighting for freedom too. We're fighting for freedom too. And President Zelensky is amazing, Chris gushed. And the courage and the strength and the decency he shows. So this is really all very cultish.
I still do not have my finger wrapped around this war with Russia and Ukraine.
There's Zelensky with his wife.
Yeah, this is during the war.
Posing on the Vogue cover.
So this man is supposed to be leading his country, but he has time to pose?
Yeah. This is from Breitbart. It says, this is old. It says, Ukraine's Zelensky and wife pose for Vogue while the country's invaded. But the reason I printed it out is because of this quote he says. And so we've been sending this money to Ukraine. For what? I don't know. It's just... I guess so they can use it to beat Russia is the idea. Now, what does beating Russia mean? I don't know. Does that mean they get them out of Ukraine? Does that mean they take over Russia?
Right. Do they just turn away finally? I'm like, okay, we're going home now. You guys have money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What is the end? What is, I don't know. I just don't really understand it. And now we know that he wants more money, so China can help build them back.
Right. Yeah, the Belt and Road, they want to do that in Ukraine. It says, in one portion of his interview with Vogue, Zelensky shrugged off crushing economic realities facing American taxpayers as they help fund his country's war with Russia, plunging the U.S. further into inflationary pressures. This is a quote. I'll be very honest and maybe not very diplomatic. Gas is nothing. Just try to imagine what I'm talking about happening in your home, in your country. Would you still be thinking about gas prices, electricity prices? Well, guess what, buddy? It's not happening in our home. So shut your mouth.
Right.
You can't just go off running your mouth saying whatever your concerns are nothing because my country is taking it on the chin. You're the damn president of your country. Why is your country taking it on the chin? Mm-hmm. If we got invaded by Canada, let's say, and then we're not going to be able to go on TV and start crying to UK and France and Germany and saying, you guys don't worry about your problems because we're getting our asses invaded by Canada and you got to help us out and you got to help us out more. I know you're giving us some, you got to give us more now. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a really strange tactic that you take. But it works because they're getting money.
Yeah, it's working.
People say it's a money laundering situation.
I think there's something...
How can you give $42 billion to a country, no strings attached?
Right.
And just say, here, use this money to fight Russia.
The thing is, I haven't even seen in the news anymore about the war.
Well, I did actually printed out something about that. They have the biggest earlier this week or was it late last week? The big news was that Ukraine was pushing back on Russia. They pushed Russia out of the northern part, and Russia was currently running tail between its legs as fast as they could to get the hell out of Ukraine. Yeah. That was the update.
Yeah, that seems unlikely.
And so that made me think of 1984. And they're always talking about in 1984 how there's these three supercontinents, they call them. Eurasia, East Asia, and then what was then UK, but they call it, I don't even know what they call it. Oh, Oceania. Mm-hmm. So those are the three super states in the 1984 world. East Asia and Eurasia and Oceania. So Oceania is what remains of United States and UK merged together to become this tyrannical socialist state called Oceania. Then there's these two other states, Eurasia and East Asia, and they're fighting each other all the time. And in the book, they're always fighting against each other back and forth. And then at different times in the book, Oceania will be allied with Eurasia. And then the next day they'll be allied with East Asia, and they pretend like it never happened, and it just goes back and forth. And so there's this quote from the book about when they found Emanuel Goldberg's book about the oligarchical collectivism, which was basically Emanuel Goldberg was enemy of the state. Big Brother had found his book, and this was the chapter 3 of the Emanuel Goldberg's book within the book of 1984. And this is from a website called metabunk.org, and they went through and they highlighted some of the things. This is interesting if you read this. This is what George Orwell wrote about the fictional wars between Eurasia and East Asia, and listen to how it kind of gels today, talking about our wars. It says, and it's not just our war now with Ukraine or Russia through Ukraine, but it's wars with Afghanistan, Iraq, before in Syria. Remember Syria was a big deal? Mm-hmm. When's the last time you heard anything about Syria?
I haven't, until you just mentioned it.
But remember, Syria was like, every day we had to worry about Syria. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it says, it is a warfare of limited aims between two combatants who are unable to destroy one another and have no material cause for fighting and are not divided by any genuine ideological difference. The primary aim of modern warfare, in accordance with the principles of doublethink, this aim is simultaneously recognized and not recognized by the directing brains of the inner party, is to use up the products of the machine without raising the general standard of living. The essential act of war is destruction, not necessarily of human lives, but of the products of human labor. War is a way of shattering to pieces or pouring into the stratosphere or sinking into the depths of the sea materials which might be otherwise used to make the masses too comfortable and hence in the long run too intelligent. Their lives are dedicated to world conquest, but they also know that it is necessary that the war should continue everlastingly and without victory. Here it is necessary to repeat what has been said earlier, that by becoming continuous, war has fundamentally changed its character. In past ages, a war, almost by definition, was something that was sooner or later came to an end, usually an unmistakable victory or defeat. If it eats up the surplus of consumable goods and helps us to preserve the special mental atmosphere that it helps us to eat up the surplus of consumable goods, and it helps to preserve the special mental atmosphere that a hierarchical society needs. The war is waged by each ruling group against its own subjects, and the object of war is not to make or prevent conquest of territory, but to keep the structure of society intact. So basically this thing is saying the point of war is to keep people poor, to keep people not intelligent, not engaged in what's going on, and to keep the pecking order in place, where you have the defense contractors, the government, all the special interests, Zelensky and all those guys, and then us, we're just here footing the bill. Mm-hmm. Doesn't that sound interesting? Yeah, it's like
the last war, 20 years.
Yeah.
And then they just leave everything behind.
Yeah. And what happens when you leave all that stuff behind? Does that mean you don't replace it?
Yeah, it has to be replaced.
Exactly.
So, but then the country where we left it, they just get to do whatever they want with.
Right.
Keep it, sell it, whatever.
Yep.
And then, yes, we'll have to buy.
We have to buy it again. We have to replace it. Yeah. Isn't it amazing how it works? How well that works out for certain parts of society?
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, lots of money. I just think about how we are at our home. We don't like to waste anything.
Yeah.
Even food. Just, finish your plate or save it for tomorrow.
Or at least give it to the chickens.
Right. And it might cost like $5, but this is trillions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I just thought it was interesting is that to me makes sense about what war is about. Mm-hmm. War is about destruction of disposable income of its citizens. And it's about keeping people in the pecking order, keeping the very rich and powerful, the ones that are making the wars, funding the wars, and profiting off the wars. Mm-hmm. Like you said, 20 years in Afghanistan. Yeah,
20 years. What were they doing for 20 years?
And what did we get? Nothing.
Yeah.
If you were to take a picture of Afghanistan in 2001, right before they launched right before bin Laden orchestrated these terrorist attacks, and take a picture of it now, there would be no discernible difference, except for the fact that the Taliban has some pretty kick-ass weapons now.
Yeah.
But beyond that...
thank you, United States.
But beyond that... Actually, I take that back. The Taliban has more land now than they ever had. They have the whole country now. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's really crazy. So there's a lot of other stuff in here. I don't know what... Oh, this is kind of interesting. Well, let's see if we should do that one or this one. This one's kind of disgusting, actually. I don't know if we should do this one or not. I'll go ahead and do it. DailyWire.com. Candace Owens says Kim Kardashian is a, quote, prostitute. Mother is a, quote, pimp over new Ray J allegations about the infamous sex tape. So Kim Kardashian became famous by having a sex tape leaked.
Right. That was years and years ago.
Correct. Ray J, full name William Ray Norwood Jr., claimed over the weekend that Kardashian and Jenner were in on the release of the sex tape from the start, which mother and daughter have denied. The singer also shockingly claimed that Jenner watched different sex tapes of her daughter and Ray J and picked a video that she thought made Kardashian look best.
Well, I read an article months ago where he said something very similar, that she was aware that this tape was released. Now, this is obviously new, but I'm not surprised.
Well, let's think about it. Let's say that it is true. Think about how fortuitous it is anyway. If not for this sex tape, would we have known who Kardashian is? Kim Kardashian?
No.
Probably not, right?
Most likely not.
Okay. Think about how much money has been generated from a sex tape potentially downstream. Now they had to do their own thing. But like I said, if this sex tape had never risen, if Kim Kardashian just approached some company and said, look, I want to make a show called The Kardashians, would she have been given the time of day?
It's hard to tell, but I mean, they are all beautiful women, all the sisters, and they all do seem to be entrepreneurs. They have, clothing line,
billions of dollars.
Yes, makeup line, perfume. Yes, but the sex tape was probably the start of their careers.
They said like Helena Troy was the face that launched 1,000 ships. Kim Kardashian is the sex tape that launched billions of dollars. But yeah, I
mean, I'm sure they had money anyway because their father was a lawyer, and then Kris Jenner was married to what's her name now? Caitlyn
Jenner.
Bruce Jenner. So Caitlyn. He had money too. So it's not like they came from a line of poor family. Right. But I've watched a couple episodes, and I would never allow my children to watch it. I feel like you really will. Your brain cells will just melt away.
Candace Owens called her a prostitute and her mother a pimp. Not only is it disgusting, but their plan worked, conservative emphasize. Kim Kardashian is a billionaire today, and she is, by the way, still selling sex. I hold the opinion that Kim Kardashian is a prostitute. I'm not going to edit this opinion. Kim Kardashian is a prostitute. Her mother is a pimp. Worse than a prostitute. Kim Kardashian is a corpse. She's a body without a soul. Jeez.
Oh my! Candace Owens said that. Yeah. Wow.
Don't hold back.
It probably is true because this sex tape was out. I don't know, 10 years ago.
Probably
longer.
15. Yeah.
So.
Because I think she was married to what's his name for 10 years.
So I'm not even sure why the guy that was in the sex tape. Why is it coming out now?
Well, maybe because he wanted some money. Maybe he approached the Kardashians and said, "Look, unless you pay me, I'm going to go." Basically blackmail.
Maybe.
But they're so rich, they don't care. What else is there? I wanted to say there's one other thing in here. Oh, this thing about Buttigieg. He says this is coming to a state near you potentially. This is from Gateway Pundit. Last month, California Air Resources Board approved a regulation that will ban the sale of new gas-powered automobiles by 2035. No gas-powered vehicles with a model year of 2035 or beyond will be sold in the state. This is in California.
By 2035?
Yes. And it says here that Buttigieg thinks that this is a good idea for us.
For Florida?
For America.
Oh, for America. Well, does Buttigieg realize that right now people in California have to turn their air conditionings off in the evening?
Mm-hmm.
And they should not run their appliances?
Yep. There it goes here. The problems with electric cars were made painfully obvious during last week's brutal heat wave in the Golden State. Governor Gavin Newsom's office sent a text message out to the 27 million residents asking them to reduce their energy usage to avoid rolling blackouts.
Well, one of our patients, her daughter, 9 months pregnant.
Oh, yes. She had to, I guess, turn off her air conditioner.
Yeah, her daughter was miserable. And I said, why is she miserable? I mean, I know she's 9 months pregnant. You're miserable. She
you
goes,
have to turn it off.
She doesn't have any air right now. I'm like, she doesn't have any air. She goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize, and then I went back and read the article.
So what's to keep them from turning their air on? I mean, do they have a way of tracking you or?
I'm sure they do.
I know Gavin Newsom's air wasn't off.
I'm sure. I mean, he gave his little pep talk in a sweater. So
right, it was so cold in his office.
Yeah, so she's 9 months. Well, she's delivered by now, but yeah, she's 9 months pregnant. And in the evening, during a heat wave, she is not allowed to run her air. And, people working, coming home, they can't make dinner for their families because they can't use their appliances.
Mm-hmm. It says, naturally, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg likes the idea of electric vehicle mandate a lot. Buttigieg appeared on the Issue Is podcast Friday in Los Angeles. He expressed serious interest in rolling out a similar plan at the federal level.
These people are so out of touch.
Mm-hmm. Listen what he says. It's interesting to see how these states are trying to go above and beyond to see what we're doing at the federal level. Go above and beyond what we're doing at the federal level. This is Buttigieg. I'm really interested to follow these developments while continuing to set a national policy as a baseline for all this. We need to move in the direction of electric vehicles, and look, industry is already there. At least one major automaker says they're not even planning to make gas cars past 2035. And we're going to make sure this happens quickly enough to help us beat climate change. What in the hell is he smoking?
I don't understand why people think that we have to go along with what they think. He thinks everyone should have electric cars. Well, I don't want an electric car. Why do they think it's okay to make us do what they want? What they want? Because
if we don't, climate change.
Climate change. Yeah. When I was reading about Martha's Vineyard this morning, I was thinking of Barack living on his island. He's really
worried about climate change.
Yeah, he's living on his island.
But see, listen to this. I know he can't believe this. We've got to make sure this happens quickly enough to help us beat climate change. There's no way that he's that stupid.
He apparently is. I mean, we did see a picture of him and his husband laying in a hospital bed like they just gave birth.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that... I think what this is, and this is kind of... I've been thinking about this, is I think these people cannot honestly believe, because of what you said about plugging into the grid, and you can't plug into the grid, you can't run the air conditioner. Mm-hmm. So obviously this is not going to work. Elon Musk is a smart man. Okay? He knows it's not going to be this way either. But I think what you do is you say it's going to happen now. And what you do is you drive demand to these companies. And then before you drive the demand, or while you're driving demand, you do like a Paul Pelosi. You buy a bunch of stock in that company, in that industry. You invest millions of dollars, billions of dollars in that industry. And you drive demand to it by saying, look, the government's going to force you to do this. The government's going to force you to do that. People get scared. They say, shit, I better buy an electric car. And then the industry stock prices rise. And then what happens, like always happens with every climate change deadline, is it comes and it passes, and then they make another deadline. Mm-hmm. So what will happen is in 2035, all these people that bought all these electric cars and invested in wind energy and got all these special things installed in their house because they're worried, because they're like, after this, I'm not going to be able to drive a gas car. Mm-hmm. 2035 rolls around and they're going to say, well, we didn't meet our deadline, but we're going to make it 2050 now.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, in the past 25 or in the past 15 years, they banked.
Yeah.
That's got to be what it's
We'll
about.
never fall for it. Do you remember our cell phones?
One.
We were told you better get new cell phones.
Oh, yeah. No,
they're not going to work. Now we're just going to hold on to ours. But then, sure enough, my phone doesn't work.
Oh, well, now I got a free one.
Remember, you got a free one because they're like, God, this guy's pathetic. We could not force him to buy a new phone.
I got a free one from AT&T, and then like 2 months later, I switched to Pure Talk.
Yes,
which you can do too if you go to drtommy.com/podcast. There's a offer for a $20 credit on your statement, along with the Atlas MD offer for $300. Credit, basically an extra month, and then there's one for somebody else. Athletic Greens
and Pure Talk. So it's half the price of what we were paying with AT&T, and they use the AT&T towers.
Yes.
So our service is just the same.
I think our service is basically 95% the same.
We definitely do have a few spots.
Yes.
Where I did have service, like I'm picking up Kaylee and her line. For whatever reason, we don't have service
but
there.
it's not worth an extra $40 a month or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And we did use it out of state, and it worked fine.
Yeah. So Pure Talk, if you're interested in saving some cash, go to drtommy.com/podcast and click on the Pure Talk offer. And the offer is basically you get $20 off your credit if you go through that link. I'm sorry, you get a $20 credit on your statement if you go through that link.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with our Pure Talk. Now, customer service is a different story. It's a very long wait time.
Well, that's the same everywhere, though. Yeah. I mean, I haven't tried calling AT&T lately, but oh well. Well, we got a lot of stuff here, but unfortunately, it's not going to make it into the podcast. But we thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in coming in for a consultation, please do so here in Lutz, just north of Bears on Florida Avenue. And Tracy and I will discuss with you your desires and needs and see if it's a good fit. And if not, we'll show you the door. No. If you don't agree with us politically, we'll show you the door. No, that's not true.
Yeah, that's definitely not true.
It doesn't matter what you agree politically. As long as, like I said, you are into patient freedom and you're into patient liberty and us liberty, too. Liberty is what we're into. Mm-hmm. And a liberal, technically, should be into liberty. A libertarian should be into liberty. And a conservative should be into liberty. So it works for everybody. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.